Hey everyone. In this video, I want to show you a good example app for showcasing Apigee and an API first architecture and how this can really benefit microservice-based apps or modern apps. So let's jump right in. So here's kind of the challenge that we're looking at. What is a good example to showcase Apigee and API first for modern apps to customers? And so this is often a question. I mean, often APIs are used as facades or to mask complex enterprise or legacy environments or a mixture of those. But sometimes it's helpful to look at like a modern app that's just microservices, right? So it's actually pretty simple. But what's the advantage or how can APIs bring value there and what's the role that they can play? So this is a good example that I think illustrates and is easy to kind of showcase the advantages here. This is just a sample dashboard app. It's a custom web app. It has just data, different views, uses Google Maps widget as well to visualize some data. And it has both REST and async WebSocket APIs, right? So it both fetches data, but also receives broadcast updates as well and kind of automatically refreshes when anything changes, right? Which is really cool. And that's like a feature of a modern app that is nice to showcase as well, right? So it's not just request response, but also getting some broadcast updates and events as well. In Apigee, we have all of the services uh, offered as APIs, right? So the actual dashboard itself is an API proxy that points to dashboard service slash dashboard. We have an order service to manage orders, customer service for customers, location service for location data, and a broadcast server service that manages all of the updates and events that get sent out over WebSockets. So that's the basic architecture. On the backend side, we're using Cloud Run just to easily host and scale those backend microservices. This is great for simple apps, right? This is a wonderful way to start. A lot of customers in Google Cloud, use exclusively Cloud Run just because it works so well, right? It can scale so easily. Of course, for more complex microservice architectures, where you have a lot of service-to-service communication, Kubernetes can bring advantages, but for, let's say, just a straightforward example, this is a great place to start just with Cloud Run, with Apigee, and with our custom web app. So here's the steps we're going to do to deploy this. We're going to use a fresh GCP project with Apigee X provisioned. So you need that as a baseline. There's great documentation and there's a great wizard for getting everything set up with the new project in Apigee X. Then we're going to clone the repository that has all the app assets and resources. We're going to run the deployment steps together as documented. And that's at this GitHub link at Apigee Dashboard Demo. And then we're going to test adding some orders and debugging proxies and seeing the traffic flow from the app to the APIs to the backend services and back again to the broadcasts. So we can kind of play around and see that traffic all happening in real time. So with that, let's jump in and start our deployment.
So here we are in the dashboard demo repository, and here we have everything we need to deploy and test this demo out. That starts with the proxies for the APIs here. So here we have one proxy per microservice for all of the core features like order, service, location service, and the rest. And we also have the source code here for the backend services, right? So the order service that takes care of the orders and the other microservices as well. The order service is just a test service written in Go, and some of the others are in Node.js or whatever. So just typical microservices. So here in the README, we have the prerequisites. So you do need a GCP project with Apigee X provisioned, and there's great documentation for getting started and getting a trial instance provisioned in the documentation for Apigee X, or you can use the simple Terraform deployment to spin everything up in one go. So a GCP project with Apigee X. You need the gcloud CLI installed and authenticated, and the Apigee automation tool Apigee CLI should be installed. So this is used to automate tasks in Apigee X. And with that, then we can run these scripts to deploy the solution. The easiest way is in Cloud Shell, which is a free Linux environment that you can use with Google Cloud very easily, just at shell.cloud.google.com. And I've already cloned the repository here in my Cloud Shell. and so I have everything here in my projects directory. Let's open this up as well here in the editor so we can see things and go through the steps together. So if you start at the top, Cloud Shell has gcloud pre-installed, and I've already installed Apigee CLI. If you don't have it installed, it's just one command. You can run this command and that will install it. You can also just test it, Apigee CLI, and you can see that I get response back, so it's running in my environment. The next step is to clone the repo, which we've already done. So I'm in the Apigee dashboard demo directory. And then the next step is to copy the environment variables file into a local version and then edit that. And so I've already edited that with my variables. You can see here are the variables you need to set. So the project ID itself, the region that you want to deploy the assets to, a Google Maps API key, which is used for the front end dashboard, has a Maps widget that we'll see in a moment, as well as the Apigee environment and environment group host. And you can find these information very easily in the Google Cloud Console. If you just search for Google Maps, you can go to the Google Maps platform and get a key very easily. And we just have minimal usage. It would definitely be in the free tier, so it's not a big issue. And if you go to Apigee and down at the bottom under Management and Environments, you can find out the information we need for the deployment. So I have two environments in my Apigee X organization. This is dev and prod. This depends on the provisioning, right? So if you do it the wizard for Apigee X, you'll have an eval environment, which is also fine. But then in the case, we just need to know which environment we want to deploy to. Here under environment groups, we have the host name configuration for an environment group where the environments are assigned. So for dev, I have this host name. So we'll need that to access our APIs and the dashboard client. So when you fill that into your environment variables, the next step is to source that local file. So to load those variables into your shell. And then we'll be creating resources. So the create resources script just enables the APIs that will be used in the project. So cloud build and cloud run to deploy the microservices. We will use a service account. So in this case, we've called it dash service to do the calls, authenticate the calls from the API to the microservices. So those are platform authenticated calls. And then create an Apigee KVM, which is a key value map, which is used to store configuration and keys. So we can store our Google Maps key there so that our API can retrieve and use that at runtime. So with that, we can create those resources just by running the create resources script. I've already created them, so I'll get some errors, but if they're not there, then they will be created in your project. Here's a conflict because I already have the service account created. Good. The next step would be to deploy the services. And if we open up the deploy script, this just goes through all of the domains from order to location and so on, and builds and deploys the microservice as well as deploying the Apigee assets, right? This should just work out of the box, but you can see really everything is deployed and configured to be used accordingly in our environment. So the step here would be to run the deploy script, and that will go through and build and deploy all of the assets for order and location and the other microservices. So I have already deployed this, so I don't need to run it. But if you haven't, then just go ahead and run that. So the next step after deploying is to go to the dashboard. And the dashboard, we can just go to our Apigee environment group host root base URL. So let's just echo that. And then /dashboard is where we can reach the client. And I'm going to do a debug session just to show exactly. So we are also proxying the client through our dashboard service proxy. And so as you know, perhaps from Apigee, we can always debug the network traffic just to see exactly what's going on. This is often very interesting just to see the calls that are flowing across the wire. And you also see that we have the URL here as well of this particular API. So I'm just going to copy that, and we will see the calls here in real time. So let's go ahead and go to a new tab and open up the dashboard. And you can see that in this test client app, we have demo data from, kind of sales data, revenue, customer data that we might be tracking in an internal app, as well as sales orders, right? So this is a list of sales orders that are in the system. If we take a look at our debug session, all of those calls here are, going through here to, go to our backend dashboard service and return the client to the user in the browser, right? We can also take a look at the order service. So that those orders here in the client were fetched using the order API and the order service. The order service does quite a lot of things here, from going to the backend targets, so the orders REST API, which we deployed to Cloud Run, as well as doing some decisions, right? And also here fetching some KVM values like our feature flag for the maps and location functionality, which we'll get to in a moment. And this is all fetched to the KVM, key value map configuration. And we're then also deciding based on the configuration if we're adding location data to our payloads, right? So this is something we can manage in the pre-flow and the post-flow at the API layer, right? This is very cool because our microservices can, basically stay constant, and we can add and update them as we go, and then just decide which ones and which versions get triggered, also based on feature flags here in the API configuration and API flows. This isn't business logic per se. This is more like, feature logic, right? Which microservices do we bring in based on the configuration, which, we can also use other decision criteria, which customer is this? Maybe we want to do feature flags for different groups of customers. So this is all stuff we can manage here in the API layer and decide if we, add location data or not, for example. Let's go ahead and debug this proxy as well. So let's start a debug session and just see also the processing as it flows over the wire. So let's copy the URL as well. And if we go back to our Cloud Shell and, for example, just do a call to the /orders endpoint, and we get a lot of JSON back. Let's format that. And we see that's where we get all of the order data back, right? So those orders that we saw in the front end are coming through the order service. And we can see that also, getting fetched through our trace as well, right? So the request coming in, we got the KVM values. The location feature flag is currently false, so it's turned off. And if you look on our dashboard, we don't have any location data either, right? We just have the values and the status and a list, but no location. Yeah, and we see this in real time, exactly how that processing through the API to our backend service and back again progresses. And, we can also see the data that comes back as well with requests sent and the response that we return to the client. So the results and how we can send that back to the client, right? So now we're back in our Cloud Shell with our instructions, and we did a get on existing orders. So we saw how the data flowed through the API to the microservice and back, and also how it's displayed in our dashboard UI. So let's go ahead and create a new order here by posting to the /orders endpoint. And I'm going to paste this into our Cloud Shell. Let's watch this in split screen to kind of see how it shows up through our broadcast service as well. So our broadcast service is providing events to clients, and so we should get updates here without any refresh necessary, right? So anytime any new data comes in, we broadcast out an event, and our clients can receive that and show the latest data in real time. So we're going to create the order 304. So let's go ahead and push that through. And you can see here that we got the order message back as a response, and it popped up immediately in our order list. So that's together the order service with the broadcast service that gets triggered to send out events. We do this within the order service proxy. So again, we don't have to code anything to do this type of functionality. We can put that directly our in our flow. So I think in the post flow, we know if there are updates, we do a broadcast call here, and this is a chain to call the other proxy and to send out a broadcast to any webhook or in this case, WebSocket subscribers to that async API, right? So we can coordinate all of this again through our API configuration here. And yeah, so this is super practical and so pretty advanced stuff we can do with a minimum on complexity or additional code. Good. So as a next step, let's go ahead and follow the instructions to turn on our feature flag. So if we look in the turn on feature flag script, this is going to set the location feature flag to true, and basically just adding location data to our order data, right, when it's returned to clients. So let's go ahead and run the turn feature flag on script. And so that's going to make that call to Apigee CLI and set the KVM, the key value map, accordingly, and turn on the flag. And then if we do a refresh here on our client, we should start getting location data immediately, right? So the next customer who comes or the next user that loads the dashboard is getting, the location data as well because we turned on the feature flag. This could also be for a subset of users, right? Or do, A/B testing as well to decide who gets the location data from location service as well with the order data. Good. So with that, let's also just test creating some more orders as well. So if we go back to our scripts, let's create the order 305 and post that as well to our orders endpoint. And you can see that it was received. Yeah, we have it here. The 305 is in our list. You saw some confetti, and it probably was was scheduled here over here on the map, right? If we do another post of 306, we'll see where that one pops up. Here it is in Spain, 306, and so the confetti was thrown as well. So we are celebrating every order that comes in. And these are just features that we can push out to our clients very flexibly using the API layer as kind of the mediator for features like this that can be updated in real time. Let's go ahead now and turn off the feature flag and just see that we just call the turn off feature flag script. Feature flag is now off. So if we do a refresh here, we'll probably no longer have location data. And now we're just back to our list view. But everything else continues to work just as before. So if we create a new order, we will have that here, in real time as well in our list. So with that, we have the full demo showing the client, all of the API proxies and our configuration through feature flags, and connecting to our backend Cloud Run services. So here are some links. There's one on using WebSockets, how to set up WebSocket connections through Apigee, and also a link, of course, to the source code repository. In case of any questions, just reach out in the comments or reach out to your Apigee team directly. And thank you for watching this video.